Climate change, the unseen menace, presents the longest long-term threat to the Earth to date. With adverse effects such as species extinction, water shortages, and food quality concerns, it is no wonder that a warming planet is seen as a terrifying future. The primary cause of this changing climate is the carbon dioxide trapped in the Earth's atmosphere, warming the planet through a process called the greenhouse effect. There are many consequences of the changing climate, and one of these consequences is the impact on the industries set up around energy sources all around the world. The one industry in particular that is hurting the most is the coal industry. Yet this is also the industry most accused for causing global warming.
Coal is the most abundant fossil fuel that we have here in the United States. And as a fossil fuel, it produces the most carbon dioxide of any fossil fuel when you burn it. Coal burning power is the largest CO2 emission in the United States.
With President Obama's promise to kill the coal industry by the end of his presidency, America has 83,000 fewer coal jobs and 400 coal mines than it did when Barack Obama was elected in 2008. This is done in the effort to convert most of the dirty energy jobs to cleaner energy alternatives. With this cut in the coal industry, the rest of the world is more inclined to follow America's example and reduce coal emissions themselves, replacing coal with cleaner power such as gas and nuclear. However, there are more changes caused by global warming besides altering the energy markets. Global warming is damaging the world's ecosystems. The ecosystem that is under the biggest threat is also the one that covers 71% of the world's surface area, the ocean. Because the Earth's temperature is rising, so is the ocean's temperature, and thus one of the ocean's most valuable resources is dying out, phytoplankton. Phytoplankton thrive in cold waters, so as the ocean waters warm, the plankton are driven out of their habitat, causing all of the marine life that depends on them for food to migrate along with them. This is a real problem, not only for fishermen whose fishing spots are dramatically moved or destroyed, but also for people who appreciate the ocean's beauty. Phytoplankton serve a second important purpose in the ecosystem. They absorb carbon dioxide, the very substance that is causing global warming. If these organisms die out, then the Earth will warm at a much higher rate and cause damage to another gem of the ocean, the Great Barrier Reef. Coral ecologist Terry Hughes says, quote, "If we've learned anything in the last 10 years, it's how to kill a coral reef," unquote. And it's not only the Great Barrier Reef that's hurting, it's all coral reefs around the ocean. Coral is usually provided food by the algae that grows on it, the same algae that gives to the coral its distinctive color. However, under the high heat circumstances provided by global warming, the algae becomes corrosive and eats at the coral. In self-defense, the coral expels the algae, and with it the coral's source of food. The coral turns white and dies. Not only is global warming hurting the Australian reefs, but it is also hurting the Australian economy. Tourism of the Great Barrier Reef brings in approximately $1.2 billion to Australia each year. With the reefs quickly dying, so is the market for tourism. Australia isn't the only country hurting from global warming. Citizens all around the world have to live with and adapt to the devastating changes brought on by a warming planet. In particular, one of the groups most important to human survival is seriously affected by global warming, the farmers who produce most of the world's food. These farmers are affected by the increase of disease and pests in crops brought about by hotter temperatures. Not only do these afflictions stunt the crop yield, but they also cause the farmers to use more pesticides. These pesticides soak into the skin of the farmers as they sweat in the fields, causing potentially deadly consequences. Africa also experiences its fair share of problems from a heating planet. Over the next 2 decades, climate change is predicted to reduce water supplies, move vegetation zones, and severely dry out the African land. These types of results are especially harmful in poorer countries, where heat-related illnesses like malaria and dengue fever go completely untreated. Similar effects are occurring in Latin America, where increasing climates are shifting the Amazon rainforest and reducing the fresh water supply. The effects also reach China, causing many of the rivers to become unsafe for human consumption, and the warming to cause up to 750,000 early deaths each year. Fortunately, the spreading of these effects may be halted. Global economies are already creating a downward trend of carbon emissions, a sure sign of the decline in dirty power usage. This is best seen in Europe, where the EU is planning to cut all greenhouse gas emissions by 80 to 95% by 2050. Action on climate change is not only localized to Europe. Other countries are also working to create a greener future. Even China, the slowest of all countries to change to green power, is implementing policies to decrease carbon emissions. China's renewable energy law, which took effect on January 1st, 2006 and was amended on December 26, 2009, set out the framework for promoting the development and utilization of renewable energy from non-fossil fuel sources, such as wind, solar, water, biomass, geothermal, and ocean. The rest of the world can begin to become greener by looking towards cleaner power sources. One way to switch from harmful power sources is to switch from more coal power to cleaner gas power. However, with this option comes a caveat. American Democrats are highly opposed to this form of power. To get gas power, a process called fracking is necessary.
What is fracking? It's short for hydraulic fracturing. It's different from the traditional way of getting at oil and gas reserves. First, a well is drilled to reach shale. That's the type of rock that traps natural gas and oil. Then a cocktail of water, sand, and chemicals is pumped in at high pressure. That fractures the shale, forcing natural gas and oil back up to the surface.
Most Democrats are extremely hostile towards this process and seek to curb it at all possible opportunities, as it is sometimes very harmful to the environment. This opposition could possibly block off the use of gas as a potential replacement for coal as a power source in the United States. These Democrats prefer the traditional green power sources, such as wind power and solar power. The problem with those power sources is their lack of reliability. However futuristic they may sound, wind and solar power can never reliably supply more than a fraction of the energy a power-hungry planet needs. The final possible alternative is the infamous nuclear power, known so well for the risk of catastrophic explosions. Although much of this risk can be curbed by small modular reactors that can be mass-produced, can't melt down, and would require a fraction of the upfront investment of a massive nuclear plant. The bad rap this power source has gotten over the years of its existence have unfortunately made this power source unpopular with the general public, making the most viable source of sustainable energy unlikely to compete in the power market. These solutions present only a few possible options for creating a green planet and a green economy. Personally, I do not think running headfirst into a green future would be a great idea, since a massive investment into a technology not fully implemented could leave many countries with a massive deficit and worse off than before the investment. The world should slowly incorporate green energy into everyday life, instead of dropping all dirty energy and throwing as much money as possible at traditional green energy. As stated prior, these once reputable sources were found to produce much less energy than once anticipated. These same risks apply to the other possible solutions. Fracking may be too dangerous for practice, and small modular reactors may prove to be too unstable to use. A safer bet would be to roll back some restrictions on coal power and slowly let the market for renewable green energy grow and take over the regulated coal industry.